stand for the pledge of allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Lori.
Rankin,
Here.
Haskell,
Here.
Bristol. Here. Pittsburgh. Here. Esplin,
Excused.
Janeski,
Here.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Quorum.
Okay. Has everybody looked over the agenda and as amended? If so, could I have a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion. We approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Everybody had the chance to look over the minutes from the previous meetings.
I did.
I put a correction on your desk.
You want to, for both of them or just one?
They both of them.
Both of them. I'll make a
With
motion. We
corrections.
approve the minutes for August 17th, 2022 and the closed session minutes of August 17th, 2022 with the amended changes.
Motion, we got a second? All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Yeah.
General public comment.
Pass those back to me, please.
Do you have any general public comment? Okay. Anybody got any questions or comments on the communications list?
No, I did not.
Okay,
Anybody else?
Lori, do you have your report?
I do. So coming into this position, I knew nothing about lake levels. Baptism by fire. I have done a lot of research and I feel I have enough information to provide you the information you need to vote on the motions today. In 2020, the Gladwin and Midland counties were flooded due to dam failure. This catastrophic failure brought many things into light for the state of Michigan, and one was the state law that lake levels were to be maintained at a level specified in the court order. This has not been done since the 60s, some in the 70s, and some not done at all. This became a critical issue for review for counties in the state of Michigan. Clare County is not alone. The Board of Commissioners had no choice but to authorize an engineer to look at lake levels and have them established in a court order by the 55th Circuit Court back in October. If the board did not do this, Clare County would be in violation of a variety of court orders and state regulations by maintaining lake levels at levels not specified in those court orders. If these court orders were not amended and lake level control structures such as a dam or a culvert needed any maintenance at all, it would be highly unlikely that the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy would grant the required permits for any repairs to a structure to maintain a level not specified in a court order. The result of this would be the county, because the county is responsible for the lake levels, the county having to amend the lake level orders to accomplish any maintenance. Repairs would be delayed by a court process, and then the actual fixing of the orders one by one would also be more costly. With this comes the unpopular task of assessing a fee to each affected property owner for each affected property. I did look at the assessment rolls, which I have copies for you here if you would like to see them for view. We'll put some in the clerk's office as well. The average assessment is a one-time fee of $100. That's the average. There are some more, but it is per property. Perhaps in another 30 years, the county will have to have levels assessed again. I'm not sure. Maybe Kyle will be able to answer that. House Bill 1160 and 1161 was just introduced the bill creates a revenue sharing trust fund for the state of Michigan. And that carves out 10% of the state sales tax for revenue sharing. So anybody who receives revenue sharing, township, cities, counties. So this has just recently been introduced. It looks good. This would be a significant increase for Clare County at about 44%, which would amount to an additional $320,000 in revenue sharing per year. I recently sent out a release of information to other health insurance management companies. I felt that we weren't getting the best deal that we could. And so I started looking at fees that we were being charged per person to handle our health insurance. And on top of those fees, the company that we're currently with is also getting a commission from the health insurance company because they requested the commission from the health insurance company. So I sent out a release of information which they had to provide to other companies. And I am confident that we can see a savings of about $40,000 if we change management companies. So I am going to need to provide 44 North with a 90-day notice. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't affect the employees, of course, and they still have the service or better than what they currently have when it comes to an employee needing assistance with, their medical bills. So we'll also be seeing a reduction in our workman's comp of $12,000 because we're going to pay it all at once instead of paying it monthly like we have been. So I talked with Jenny. We just got to make sure it doesn't affect our cash flow, but we're going to do that October 1st. I am leaving Sunday for the MERS conference. I will be available if needed. I'll be back Tuesday. Construction starts in this room tomorrow. Our October meeting will be in the basement in conference room A. If you need anything out of your file cabinets, take it out. Otherwise, I'll put your name on it and storm back by my office. And one more thing, I am hoping to take a week of vacation the last week of October.
We'll see.
Not a chance.
A very important thing to do.
Yes.
Involves a tree stand.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Anybody got any questions for Lori?
No, that was-
Okay. The hearing special presentation. Guess you guys are up.
Perfect. Well, I'm Kyle O'Mara. I'm an attorney with Fahey Schultz Burzik Rhodes. I know Carl probably doesn't need any introduction. I think Lori did a great job introducing this lake level updating project that Clare County undertook and you guys initiated in October of 2021. We're here before you related to assessments and project costs for 10 lakes. And I'm assuming you have the lakes in front of you, but it's Lake George, Bertha Lake, Shingle Lake, Dodge Lake, Long Lake, Dock and Tom Lake, Arnold Lake, 8 Point Lake, Otter Lake, and Sutherland Lake. The Drain Office held assessment hearings on August 12th and September 7th, 2022 to go over proposed assessment roles as well as project costs to what Lori was explaining is more or less updating historical lake level orders. So Clare County has a fair amount of lake level orders, which are court orders that require lakes to be held at a certain elevation. And then oftentimes they will incorporate the boundaries of a special assessment district. Clare County is not alone, but what we've noticed is of these 10 lakes, they were all specified in their court orders at elevations that the lakes historically have just not been maintained at. And how we've determined that, or how the engineers determine that, is they look at the infrastructure that's designed to maintain the lake level. And in many times that infrastructure was designed to maintain a different level than what's specified in the order, which is bad. And the reason why that is bad is for a couple of things, like Lori said, is one, if you needed to do maintenance or significant maintenance on one of these structures, you need to get an EGLE permit, and EGLE will not give you a permit to rebuild the structure, repair the structure, to maintain a level that is not in that court order. So I've encountered that situation a number of times, and what happens is Eagle tells you have to go to court to fix your court order. And the problem with doing that piecemeal is you go to court individually and you lose the efficiencies of, for these lakes, we did 5 hearings same day, back to back. There's no travel with the engineer. There's no travel with us, back to back hearings. We can get them all done with just, the travel for just once. It's not, you go back and forth to the court 5 times. The other thing was a number of your lake level orders, or actually I should say most of them, did not delineate the boundaries of a special assessment district. Although there is a special assessment district that has historically been used, the boundaries were not in the court order, which amendments to the lake level statute, I believe in the 90s or so, started referencing. And the problem when you don't have that is your assessments potentially could be subject to challenge, because someone could say, well, I'm not in the boundaries of the special assessment district. I think it would be a debate whether that would be a prevailing legal argument or not. However, because we needed to fix the court orders for the elevations, we also made sure that the special assessment districts were correct, boundaries in the orders, the new orders, and then also that the special assessment roles were updated to account for things like splits, combinations, land transactions that occurred since some of these court orders were initially entered. And to give you a flavor of when some of these court orders were initially entered, Lake George, 1976, Bertha Lake, 1965, I think Long Lake, 1953. So they've lasted you quite a long time. And it's our intent with this particular project to have these revised orders either last you indefinitely or extremely, decades like the past ones have. And I think that's important because what we've noticed during the hearings is there's two really big points that I think the public brings up, and then I think that you're probably wondering about is one, what is the necessity of this? And then two, we look at these costs, and these costs do seem high. And I think from Carl's perspective and my perspective, we don't want to assess people unless they have to be assessed. And this is a situation where it was a necessity to fix these court orders. After, like Lori said, after Midland and the Gladwin Dam failures, very big, important, these orders are under now a microscope, essentially, with the state of Michigan. And if you look at, like, for example, in Roscommon County, you'll see that there has been significant litigation with Higgins Lake and a published Court of Appeals opinion that came out, I believe, in April of this year, where a property owner sued the county saying that you did not maintain the lake level in the court order. The circuit court said, well, they're trying their best, right? That's the county court. The Court of Appeals said, no, you look at the law. The law says you need to do this. And if you're not doing it, you need to fix it. So right now, Roscommon County has spent a significant amount of money in litigation between, circuit court, now the Court of Appeals, and I think they're appealing it to the Michigan Supreme Court. And if you think, some of these assessment computation of costs are expensive, you should see what it costs to litigate something, all 3 levels. So that's the necessity of it. The other practical necessity is that if you know that you're not maintaining your lake level at the order or at the level in the order, you're willingly kind of violating state law, or you are willingly violating state law. You know about it and you're not doing it. And even though Carl is the delegated authority for the county Board of Commissioners of the county oversees him for this job. So it would be the county also participating in that. So they needed to get fixed for those just general reasons. In terms of cost, we understand that we don't want to assess people unless it's necessary. And one, we thought we know it's necessary to ensure that the county's not violating state law. We tried to do what we could to be efficient, hold assessment hearings all in the same day. I think there was one day where we held 6 back-to-back in the basement. That's quite the experience if you observed any of these, to have 6 days back-to-back. We've held court hearings back-to-back, 5 back-to-back one day, 5 back-to-back the other day, to avoid costs of, there has to be an engineer present, there has to be attorneys present, to avoid costs of them coming back and forth. We drafted all the pleadings together. Many of the pleadings did look similar for the cases. That's another efficiency. And I think we did this as, the costs do look high, but as efficient as possible to do this. with the understanding that these are getting assessed to property owners. We want to make our costs, as low as they can be, but also with the understanding that this court process should not happen, or people should not be assessed for this court process for a very long time. The intent of this was to fix these orders and to keep them indefinite, so they're fixed. The only times that property owners would be essentially assessed would be if there needed to be maintenance, kind of shovel the dirt work on a project or on some infrastructure that's maintaining one of these lake levels. So, I can't promise they're not going to be assessed. The whole purpose of the statute is to design a special assessments district for property owners to pay for this infrastructure. So I can't promise, they're never going to be assessing it, because they probably will be for normal maintenance. But in terms of this upfront costs of fixing these orders, including our costs and the engineer's costs that were related to that, the intent of that is not to have it again. And then again, I think another point to emphasize is these are one-time assessments. That's all that's approved. Once they're done, they're done until we either hold another hearing. There is some monies in these computation of costs to talk about things like, estimated cost to run a pump for a number of years, utility electric costs for, I believe, Bertha Lake, estimated costs for dam inspections to not come to the property owners again and ask for an assessment immediately. So with that, I think that gives you at least some of a background. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know there was a lot of public input. You've received a lot of letters, and I'm happy to address any points that have been made in those letters. On our end, I do want to emphasize that these hearings for the court and the assessment, in November 2021 or so, we mailed the townships a letter about this process that was going to come forward. The court hearing required mailing notice to every single person in the special assessment districts. For the assessment hearings, that required mailing notice to every single person in the special assessment districts. The court hearings required 3 publications. The assessment hearings required 2 publications. We posted notice of this on the website. And then I think most importantly, one thing that Carl's office did, which I think is very good, is we set up a central call-in line where there was literally hundreds of phone calls that we're able to take and then in many cases resolve issues before these hearings with property owners that could not attend the hearings or otherwise.
Does anybody got any questions?
Yeah, how did you arrive on the backlot boundaries? I think I asked that question when I was at the hearing. And
Yes.
really didn't get a.
So how we arrived on the backlot boundaries, it's going to vary by lake, but what we generally did is the engineers looked at the plats surrounding individual lakes, and they determined what plats give essentially a private access right to properties within that plat. So there are plats that may dedicate park areas, beaches, there may be private roads that run into the lake that technically only the plat backlot owners could pay. And then the interesting thing, Dale, about this particular process is we had to present that to the court, and the court ultimately makes the say of who is in the special assessment district and who is out. So this is a unique process, a little bit different than a township special assessment district where the township makes that final call, who's in and who's out. The court in this particular process made the call, who's in, who's out, and then everybody was able to come to the court hearing and then also, potentially protest whether they're in the district or not.
Right, because on Lake George, a lot of the back property owners, there's no deeded access to that lake, no more than anybody that lives in Farwell or Lansing or anywhere else. There's nothing on those deeds that says they have any special privilege to that lake or access to that lake.
Do you mean the deeds or the plat?
The deeds or the plat.
Okay, and
There's
you know,
nothing, nothing in there.
And I would have to see the specific property to give you a direct answer, but I know the plats that at least, the engineer reviewed, there are road ends. There potentially are situations where there are, some types of parks or dedicated areas, but that was our belief. And that's part of the reason why we hold the hearings too. One thing I should have added during my spiel is, at the hearings, we did make adjustments to assessments. When someone came to us and said they didn't have access and we found that it was consistent with a plat or something, we zeroed out the assessment, even if the court made the role or made the boundary.
Did you notify those people?
We did.
that were zeroed out?
Yes, yes. They would come to they would either come to the hearing or call us and we would return their call and say, yes, we agree with you. I think, I'll give you an example. I can't remember if it was Sutherland Lake. One person's name was Rick Ross. I remember him. And then there was just a number of different people that we've done it with.
Yeah, on the assessments too, it listed that, I mean, if you have contiguous property and the same person owns it all.
Yeah.
But they were different lot numbers, they were assessed an individual instead of all one.
Yeah.
In some of those back lots are paying more than the people that actually live on the lake in that assessment.
Yeah, and so with this, we do this, our office represents 60 different drain commissioners, and I've done this throughout the state. It's very common to do it this by parcel basis, and some of the reasoning for that is, when you look at property taxes, if you have a separate parcel and it's not combined, typically you're gonna receive an individual property tax bill. The reason why we do assessments like this is more or less that you can sell one of those individual parcels. And I understand this is a single year assessment, so this is what you're probably gonna respond to me. But if you have a multi-year assessment and you have contiguous lots and you decide to only assess the owner, then someone sells that second parcel, then they potentially don't pay an assessment. A new owner doesn't pay an assessment in the future. The other reason why you wouldn't do that necessarily is, one, we will treat combined lots. If the lot's formally combined, we will, it's only subject to one assessment. And then also in the event of when you're thinking of doing these in terms of it's the concept of it's the benefit to the property and not necessarily to the person. So we treat the parcels within a special assessment has to be the benefit to the property, not necessarily the person. So we're thinking about the benefits to the property, and because they're individual properties, they get individual assessments.
Okay, so now you had mentioned that you had changed some assessments to where they didn't have to pay or reduced
Yes.
amount. I was under the understanding, I can't remember the other attorney's name that was in our hearing.
Stacy, yes.
Stacy said that nothing could be changed at this point.
Nothing could be changed in the event I think there's a distinct question. Can I combine all of my lots at this point and have it changed? And the answer to that is no. We were changing if someone could demonstrate they don't have lake access at all, we would zero them out. But in terms of combining lots after the hearing, we could not do that.
I think you find a lot of them around Lake George don't have a deeded assessment to that lake.
And I can just tell you from our end, I think we tried our best, and the engineers reviewing the plats. I think many people they believe that they do not have deeded access, but a plat may give them access and they just don't use it. And I do sympathize with that position, but we have to go by what we believe is legally defensible. And then also from the fact of, we do have to rely somewhat on, that's why we give the property owners mailing notice and we have a call in line. We do have to rely somewhat on the property owners because the court setting the special assessment district boundary, telling us assess these properties when you assess. And we really can't do a title search. We can look at all the plats, but to do a title search on every single property in one of these special assessment districts, I'll give you an example, the Dodge Lake Complex, there's 2,000 parcels. You think about spending, I don't know, $200-300 doing a title search on each parcel and then reviewing that. I mean, that you're going to add hundreds of thousands of dollars to the cost of the project. And the other thing I would add, Dale, is that the assessment, I think for the backlots of Lake George were, any assessment significant, but it was about $24.09 at one time.
So people can still contact them to make a change if they're. No.
If you were to approve this, then the answer is no. But in the future, if we're doing future assessments, let's say there's a major project, let's say the Lake George, the Lake George Dam or water control structure fails and we need to reconstruct it or something. You can hold a new hearing and someone demonstrates they don't have lake access or that they combine lots. then their assessment would be different. They'd either get one assessment or maybe they don't get assessed at all.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So you still have to use the district boundary, but you can change they're called apportionments or rates that people get assessed at.
So what is the process? During those hearings, there were some appeals in those hearings. What is the process of dealing with those appeals?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the process of dealing with the appeals, what the hearings allow you to do is if you're a property owner, you can come to the hearing and that reserves your right to essentially appeal or protest. There in the statute, it's 324, 307, 14. 4, it talks about a special assessment roll shall be final and conclusive unless appealed in a court. So I don't want to mislead anybody in the public that wishes to exercise their appeal rights. I would say consult, an attorney because it talks about appealing in court to determine what the correct venue is.
So what was the purpose of the hearings?
The purpose of the hearings is to come up with a proposed assessment roll and computation of costs for this project. If there were any potential errors in the what we believe to be errors in what the drain office has recommended and the engineers and us have recommended on their behalf to make changes to those rolls, which a number of which we've done. Other changes we made in Long Lake, they found commercial properties that they wanted to be assessed more, and we made that change. And then those hearings recommend the assessment rolls and computation costs to you to make the final determination on. That's the purpose of the hearing.
I'd like to ask one question. In case one of these structures that have a dam or something, a lake level dam, if those would fail and there would be a Gladwin County similar situation, does this help the property owners get funding for it?
Well, you already had jurisdiction, so I'm going to say your answer is generally no. It helps protect the county if that situation were to occur. So the one thing I do want, I'm not an engineer, but I feel comfortable saying this. These dams are not holding back or dams or structures, and some of them just look like literally culverts or tubes, are not holding back as much water as Midland Gladwin. But let's say the hypothetical. It generally won't help with state funding. However, what it will do is protect the county. Many of these court orders didn't have the special assessment district boundaries delineated. I think someone could make the argument, well, there's no boundaries in the court order, so there's no district. I would disagree with that. And then they would say the county's general fund should be responsible for paying for these because there's no special assessment district boundary. So that's the way it would protect the county. Otherwise, the county's general, if you don't have a special assessment district, typically the county's general fund pays for all lake level maintenance. And that's, for example, in Roscommon County, that's what they've been doing for years. And then they've noticed their dams are getting old and they want to make special assessment districts.
Maybe Carl can answer this. What would a typical dam cost? I realize the bigger the.
Yeah, I mean, each dam that we have or spillway is different. We did some work over at Dock and Tom Lake, which we're gonna be taking over very shortly. I believe that was $10,000 to replace the old stop logs with aluminum boards now. And we probably won't have to do anything for that for years now.
In terms of the answer your question, this might directly answer your question. The last project I was involved in that needed like a dam recon, and each lake's going to be different. It's going to cost. The costs are going to vary by how much water the dam's holding back, what the particular structure is. But I can give you an example. In Tuscola County, a total dam reconstruction project was about, I think the total cost ended up being like $800 to $900, or $800 to $900,000.
But ultimately, wouldn't you say that it does help the property owner in the terms of if this wasn't done and there needed to be work done?
Yeah.
You have to go through this whole process, all of the delays through the court system, and the potential of something happening, not being able to fix it, not being able to get the permits. So with this done, the ability to be able to address these issues would ultimately be beneficial to the property owner. So
Yes.
that it would prevent something like this.
Yes, and I guess to directly build off of that, it'd be beneficial I've had this situation happen where a dam needed work and the lake level didn't match what was in the order. And then Eagle says, well, you got to do this first. And in that time it's a little scary because it is a dam. That was before Midland, when they said, do the court hearing first before you can get your permit. But maybe it would be a little bit different now. But that's the situation that benefits the property owner. And then the other thing that having frankly one of these special assessment district boundaries does to benefit the property owner is the lake level statute is one of the, I would say, nobody likes special assessment statutes, but it's one of the nicer special assessment statutes. If something major were to occur, this statute allows you to spread special assessments over a period of 40 years. So you can make annual costs, honestly, pretty affordable. I know, nobody likes paying special assessments, but you can spread those over 40 years under the statute.
But that's not being done with.
That's not being done. This is one time only fee. No major work, this is more, we have to fix the orders. There's some engineering work related to expenses and the computation of costs, surveying the structures, doing some other things like that. But this is what I would consider this a, kind of a cleanup maintenance project that should last you a long time.
And so one more question. I don't want to beat this to death, but say like Bertha Lake, it's got a pump in there. Now the landowners are responsible, the people that are assessed for that pump or to maintain that. There would be, so if the dam goes out someplace, we've had Gray Lake probably before your time, Carl, where for some particular reason, the waters came up. Bertha Lake, the same thing. Those property owners that have been assessed for this will be responsible for any repairs or whatever.
The other ones already.
Why was that? They weren't.
If
Because they could.
the pump goes out,
It would be an assessment. That pump runs at Berkeley Lake, for instance.
Okay.
That pump runs, they want it on all the time now. That pump will run probably $800 a month for 6 months. Then we shut it off and then there's only a $35 fee for consumers that they charge. But yeah, everything is assessed back to the people.
okay, so the liability for any failures that would cause damage outside of the dam structure would be on those people that are assessed?
It would generally be on those people, and then also the county, and Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, has a general liability insurance policy that covers the lake level control structures.
Yes.
And the build on that point, a professional engineer needs to inspect a lake level control structure at least every 3 years and submit a report. So the drain office has an understanding of what condition these dams or control structures are in.
Does the drain commission have the right, and if they find a defect, to say we're going to fix it?
Yes. Yeah, yes, and that's why this statute is kind of really deferential to the county and drain commissioner, because I think what the legislator has thought of when they're drafting this is, assessments are going to be unpopular, but we're going to need to give a lot of leeway to the counties to ensure that this important infrastructure gets fixed, even if people don't want to necessarily pay for it.
If I understand right, like the Wiggums Lake and the Sanford Dam and that were red flagged for quite some time and nobody did anything about it.
Yeah, so those are a complex situation because they were privately owned. They were owned by essentially a utility operator. And what happened was they ended their lifespan. This is I don't directly represent the Four Lakes Task Force, but this is what I understand from it. That's the organizations that's the delegated authority for those dams for Midland and Gladwin counties. But they were privately owned and under regulations of the federal agency FERC. And at the very end of their lifespan, they started getting transitioned to being publicly owned and then subject to all this Part 307 and other public laws. And in that time period, that's when they unfortunately failed. So they were subject to essentially different review and regulations. And as a private owner, it's a little bit different. When you're a utility operator, you're generally, if someone says you need to do $50,000 worth of maintenance, you're thinking of it as, well, this dam has potential output to generate this much power. You're thinking of it as an economic tool rather than, I think, a county thinking we need to ensure that we essentially have a safe structure. I think that's the county, that's going to be the county's number one goal. But when you have a private operator, it's their number one goal. Sometimes it shouldn't be, but sometimes it's money.
So all of these that we're talking about here are owned by the property owners then, Carl, or are they owned by the county?
They're owned by the county with the exception of Doc and Tom, which the ownership is changing very soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
What about Shamrock Lake? That seems to hold back the most water of any of this and have the biggest dam. That not under county?
There's no legal lake level. Yeah, so there isn't a legal lake level, so the county doesn't have responsibility for it. Which some people could consider a good thing.
Why isn't there a legal lake level?
Well, that's a good question. So to establish a legal lake level, a county can do one of two things. It can, by motion, direct a study to establish a legal lake level in an inland lake in its county, or it can require people to come with a petition, 2/3 of the property owners, to the county board of commissioners to prepare a study to determine whether to establish a legal lake level. Most counties will want people to come with a petition because when you generally become a public lake level and the county's responsible for it, the property owners are going to be assessed. So you want to have buy-in from the property owner. So I don't know how all of these lakes were established as legal lake levels. It would not surprise me if there were many petitions filed by property owners, a while ago to make them legal lake levels, but that's how it happened. So presumably Shamrock Lake, that has never happened. There are some lakes where people, I think Lake 13 is another example where, a city may own a dam or a private association may own a dam, and they're not legal lake levels and the county's not responsible for it. I can tell you this summer, I worked on a lake in Montmorency County where a neighborhood association owned actually 3 dams, I think, on one lake, and they wanted the county to take over the lake as a legal lake level, and the county did, but it's really a kind of a decision that the county can make.
Any other questions?
Okay, so if one of them fail, we have insurance covering us for that, correct?
Well, we have liability insurance. I mean, the dams are not.
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind is there is liability insurance. You have a special assessment district that you could potentially assess up to 40 years. You potentially could, if a dam fails, you could just see how much money Midland and Gladwin County get, but the state generally, I shouldn't say generally, I can't speak for them, but it seems like they will give you funds as well. And then for many of these lakes, the dam is nothing like Midland and Gladwin counties. Some of them are, Carl, you want to explain? Some of them are basically culverts or tubes.
It's
And
not gonna
if they-
cover like,
For instance, Lake George, they have a board, they've got a concrete structure.
Yeah.
Then they have a board that's just in between them. So if something happened to that board, it rotted out, we replace the board. If the concrete all broke up, then we'd have to have that repaired.
Yeah, it's
it's
not,
gotta have-
you're probably not gonna have.
It's not gonna, yeah, it's not
downstream.
gonna downstream, it ain't gonna bother anybody.
Yeah, it's just not, it's not the same. But to answer your question directly is there is potentially insurance. There is a special assessment district, which is almost kind of like another insurance policy you have. And then potentially the state with the liability, at least from my perspective of the structures that you have, is significantly on a scale of maybe thousands less than those dams were holding a lot of water back, a ton of water back. And they're close to populated areas as well.
so our general liability insurance will cover the whatever's holding that water back, but it's not gonna cover like anything that would happen to, property or the property owner.
Well, I know some of those people over there that completely lost their houses on around the lake. And nothing was covered there, and now they're being assessed to put the dam back in place if they want it. So I'm saying it's a liability insurance covered.
There's probably, so the answer for that, there's probably limits on the liability insurance. And then to give you an example, don't quote me, but I believe this is a ballpark figure. I believe the state gave the Four Lakes Task Force about $200 million. That's the cost to repair those dams. It's not, because there's a lot of environmental remediation. I mean, it is huge costs that are just, I would say not comparable to this.
Yeah, I know it wouldn't be the same if we haven't got anything like that here, but still there would be, if a dam went out, there'd be some damage to people that aren't in the district. That's what I'm.
Yeah, so I would think you would have your liability insurance that may cover the dam structure. You could assess potentially for damage that occurred to other people, which I think would be on a much smaller scale. And then if you could spread those assessments over 40 years, it may not be very significant, if at all. And then the overarching theme is, I think Carl's going to ensure that those dams are inspected in compliance with state law. And it's going to take the recommendations of those dam inspection reports seriously, and not unlike a private dam operator that may be more focused on money. He's going to be focused on safety, and the county's going to be focused on safety and making sure those improvements occur.
Okay, thank you. No more.
Anybody else? Okay. Rick, you want to read that motion?
We heard special presentation.
Yep.
Okay. 9:50 AM, motion to adopt the following resolutions, 22-23 Arnold Lake, 22-25 Dock and Tom Lake, 22-27 Eight Point Lake, 22-29 Long Lake, 22-24 Bertha Lake, 22-26 Dodge Lake, 22-28 Lake George, 22-30 Shingle Lake, 22-31 Sutherland Lake, and 22-32 Otter Lake.
Got a motion? Got a second?
I'll second it.
Motion, a second. Roll call, please, Lori.
Rankin,
Yes.
Bristol,
Yes.
Pittsford,
Yes.
Majewski,
No,
Einhardt.
Yes,
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, guys. You got budget public hearing.
I made a few minor adjustments to the budget as we discussed at the budget workshop a couple weeks ago. I also added to the budget a beginning and an ending fund balance. This does not mean fund balance to balance the budget. We have to incorporate some of the fund balance into the next year budget. We need to be able to have something to work with if needed for adjustments throughout the year. At the time of putting the beginning and ending fund balance into the 23 budget, there was approximately 2.8 million in the fund balance. Jenny and I discussed only taking 1.9 and incorporating into the 23 budget for adjustments when there is increased revenue or increased expense. Again, this is just a budget tool and does not mean we are taking money from the fund balance. I put in the 23 budget resolution to increase my authorization to transfer up to $50,000. We discussed this at a previous meeting. Currently, I can approve budget amendments up to 6. There can be up to 5 weeks between meetings sometimes, and many adjustments or line item transfers sit in my box waiting for approval at the next meeting. This makes it difficult for me to have an accurate view of our expenditures. I'm requesting that you authorize me to transfer monies from one category to another within an activity and between activities of the same fund, and an amount up to 50,000 for non-equipment expenditures, up to 25,000 for equipment expenditures when it shall be deemed necessary. And I can give you a report on that. So basically, the budget is not any different than what I presented to you at the workshop. It just, I told you what the changes were going to be when I made those changes. Any questions?
Okay. All right. Sandy, will you read B?
Excuse me. It says public hearing. Does it have to be a public hearing, opening and closing before you motion or no?
But the public could comment on the budget. It is also in the clerk's office.
Okay.
For review, if anybody wants to review it.
We're going with Roman numeral I there.
Okay,
Motion to adopt resolution 22-21, approving and adopting the County General Appropriation Act for fiscal year 2023. Roll call.
I'll second it.
second. Any further discussion on the budget? Roll call, Lori.
Crystal,
Yes.
Majeski,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Pascal.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. Wage compensation resolution.
I included the wage compensation into the budget, and that you also had at the workshop. That does include a 5% increase for non-union, with the exception of the sheriff and the undersheriff, and myself, and then a 5% increase for, the units that had the wage opener.
Any discussion, a motion?
Somebody has to give a motion,
Mhm.
right?
That's the part C there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution 22 establishing fiscal year 2023 compensation.
I'll second it.
Motion second, roll call, Lori.
Majeski,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Pascal.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Samantha, you take sheriff?
Motion to approve the state of Michigan's first responder training and recruitment grant in the amount of $54,035.
I'll second that one.
Second, roll call, please, Lori.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Majeski.
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Pascal.
Yes.
Did I say Majeski? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I seconded it. You said second.
Jack, you take Veterans Affairs?
I move to approve the grant from the Michigan Department of Military and Veterans Affairs in the amount of $59,845.
I'll second that.
Motion, we got a second. Roll call, please, Lori.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Majeski.
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Pascal.
Yes. Rick, you take the airport?
Motion to approve the grant from Michigan Department of Transportation for the amount of $8,700.
Oh, I'll second that.
Got a motion, we got a second. Roll call, please.
Rankin,
Yes.
Bristol,
Yes.
Majeski.
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Pascal.
Yes. Sandy, will you take finance A?
To approve statutory finance committee meeting minutes of August 22nd, 2022 in the amount of $186,507.06 and meeting minutes of September 6th, 2022 in the amount of $37,137.81.
We got a second?
I'll second.
Motion, we got a second. Roll call, please, Lori.
Bristol,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Majeski.
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Pascal.
Yes. Dale, take B,
Sure. To approve the expenditures of the month of August 2022 in the amount of $2,722,615.20 with the general fund expenditures totaling $1,723,416.71.
Should we got a second? Motion second, roll call, please.
Chesky.
Yes.
Again,
Yes.
Einhardt,
Yes.
Pitchford,
Yes.
Bristol,
Yes.
Haskell.
Yes. Sorry. You take seats, man.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the budget adjustments as presented. Does that work?
That works for
I'll
me.
second it.
I
Does
practiced
that do
that.
the next one? Does that do
Did you
the
practice
next
that?
motion too? Because there are two others on the amended. So would that do for all of the budget adjustments as
Will work
presented?
for me, work for everybody else.
Works for me.
Sure.
I was afraid I was gonna get that.
Did we need?
Do we have a second?
Yes, I seconded it.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Pitchford,
Yes.
Majewski, Bankin,
Yes.
Bristol,
Yes.
Einhardt,
Yes,
Haskell.
Yes, I'm sorry. Daydreaming. Jack, will you take D?
I'm sorry. Take which one?
Personnel, D, first motion. Tentative agreement.
I move to ratify the total tentative agreements for UAW Units 1 and 2 for the October 1st of 2022 wage opener and authorize the board chair to sign the necessary letters of agreement when necessary, formed by the county's labor attorney.
And motion, we got a second?
I'll second.
Motion second. We should probably roll call that one.
Kleinhardt,
Yes,
Pitchford,
Yes.
Asplund.
Not here.
Oh, sorry. Majewski.
Yes.
Bankin,
Yes.
Haskell,
Yes.
Bristol.
Yes.
Didn't we already do that one?
Well, we did that for the motion, so it's, or the resolution, so it's in the resolution, but you have to actually approve it separately.
Okay.
You take two on that, Rick?
Sure will. To approve the 5% wage increase for the non-union and elected officials.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Bankin,
Yes.
Bristol,
Yes.
Pitchford,
Yes.
Majewski,
Yes.
Kleinhardt,
yes.
Haskell.
Yes. Okay. Are you caught up?
I am.
All right. You got anything for us?
Yep, just real short and sweet. The ballots have been programmed and ordered for the November election. Register of Deeds is busier than normal handling phone searches because of the website being down. Those searches are normally done online through the website. And Circuit Court has taken on additional duties to help since Judge Evans's assignment clerk resigned. So they're extra busy now too. That's it.
Thank you. Jenny, you got anything for us?
Good morning. I do. I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Good morning. Let me try this. Okay, there we go. Just real short, I did put the statutory cash and investment report in front of you. And I added some new notes to that. So for instance, most of our money comes in this fiscal quarter. And so with the tax dollars coming in, we were able to pay back our internal loans that we had with the tax funds. And then the interest rates are increasing. So with the additional monies coming in, I'm trying to push some money out and investing. Transit is almost set and I'm working with road and then of course moving some of our money around. In the delinquent tax fund, it's just a note, it looks like there is a lot of money in there right now, but that's going out in investments as well. And we have to have so much of that that we reserve for the settlement process that obviously will begin next March. There is one note of concern which you already discussed today, and that is one fund will end deficit this year, and that is the lake level fund, and that is the timing of the fiscal year. So the special assessments that are going on will take care of that. But just so you note, that will be in the audit report this year. I think it will be once this is taken care of, I think that will go away. The assessments, because I think they did that to cover the next few years. Also, there is the cash summary for by fund report for you, and that one is just the in and out for August. The cash and investment one is as of yesterday, so that is the most current and has the current fund balances for every fund in that. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Our first land sale is complete. We sold 28 out of the 30 parcels, and the 2 that didn't sell are lots in the city of Clare. They're side by side. They were, I don't know if you're familiar with where the old Whitbeck station used to be. They're behind that. I think that at sometimes they may get wet. They're not always wet, but the second sale, those 2 lots will be going to our second no reserve sale, which is going to be online the whole month of October, with the final day being October 28th from 10 to 5 on that. The state just came out with the new amended tax foreclosure law changes. The state now has an annual land sale report that they want us to follow. I give those every year, but obviously it was set up for the previous tax foreclosure law. So they just actually came out with that last week. We are all busy updating that. So I will send that all to you by email this week. And then I'll just have it formally on the October meeting. And then I'm just busy working on wrapping up the 2022 fiscal year. And for now, I think that's it, unless anyone has any questions.
No, thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep. And I guess in my report, I'd like to thank you and everybody involved in the budget process. I think this year it went incredibly smooth and very informative, and everybody that participated did a great job.
Thank you.
I think
Yeah.
as a board, we should all say thank you. It was-
Thank you. Well, it was
Normally, it was one of the
an
most tense, stressful times of the year on the board, and you guys took that away, and
Mhm.
it was very smooth. And
Yeah.
I thought
It was a
very
group
good.
effort.
Yeah.
You know, Joy and Jody, Jerry Becker, Jenny, all the department heads. I mean, everybody worked together. Lori, Michelle, you know, and I totally cut a whole grant of Michelle's, but everybody worked together, and it was a great process. So I appreciate everybody's help.
Yes.
Like I say, good job. And other than that, I don't have much. Everything's going pretty smooth, so. Dale?
Good. Just, attended my meetings. I feel I need to explain myself on my no vote for the lakes assessment. I fielded a ton of calls, not only in my district, but from Long Lake, from other districts in that, expressing concern over this assessment. A lot of them were that, a lot of the questions were the backlot owners and how they're being assessed. Some of the assessments on the backlots were more than people living on the lake that were paying. You had some lakes that were like Bertha Lake, I believe, their assessment each was like $240, something like that. And Dennis Zimmerman's Lincoln's supervisor, he would be able to verify that. But they were considerably larger than other lakes. And also too, there were the lakes weren't assessed the same. This lake would pay 23,000, this lake would pay 17,000, this lake would pay 30,000. I mean, it really wasn't, there was no rhyme, no reason to that. I voted on the way my constituency wanted me to vote. They strongly disagreed with it. And that's I'm backing my constituency with my vote. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Rick, you got anything for us?
One thing I wanted to talk about, this last week in the Antique Tractor Club had a touch and feel, or you want to call for the.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
went really good. We had participated. I mean, it's great to see the community doing stuff like that.
Mhm.
I guess they had about 50, 60 kids out there and it went over really well.
Yeah, that's great. Yep. Did they have the dirt dash or is that up next weekend?
I think it's next weekend.
Yeah, okay. So that's good too.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
Sandy?
Okay, 3 of my townships are just working right along. Everybody's doing well. 3 of them didn't really have any lakes in them that were being considered, so that was all peaceful. Hamilton Township is doing a lot of stuff. They're tearing down the old town hall that's near the artesian well over there by Athey.
Athey Town Line.
Yes, yeah. And they're gonna move the artesian well back to where it comes out of the ground, which was under the old town hall. The old town hall was like in pretty bad shape and there was some asbestos stuff in there. So they're having that carefully taken down. And for the artesian well, I don't know if any of you have gotten water from that place in the wintertime. Oh, but the ice builds up where it comes out of the ground and that can be pretty wicked. And so they're gonna put a shelter around that so that doesn't happen. I was really glad to hear that. They're taking down the old church. It's where it's not Amish, what's the next step up?
Mennonite.
Yeah, the Mennonite church.
I'm
They're
not saying that's a step up or down. I didn't.
No, but more liberal, yeah. They're making the old church there into a venue to rent out. And they're pretty excited about that. They bought playground equipment to put in place near their town hall. I believe they passed a road millage. And they're still working on their survey to submit to the Hazard Mitigation Committee. All my other townships did that. Jerry, have you heard from Hamilton?
Not yet, no.
All right, I'll nag at him.
We sent it out to them, but I haven't heard back.
Yeah, okay, I'll nag him. All right. And that's plenty enough, don't you think?
Yep, good job. Good job. Samantha?
Surrey Township's meeting was quite interesting. Liberty Mountain had an event a couple weekends ago. And regardless to say nobody was happy. I've lived at my current residence for the past 20+ years and I have never heard a concert. And all weekend long, we could hear it at our house and we're 4 miles away, let alone the people that are less than a mile away. And they didn't shut it down till 4 o'clock in the morning. So the township attorney now has that in their hands to see what can be done, because that was a little out of control. People had to leave their homes and they went and they got a hotel room so they could sleep because they had to work. So we're not happy. Like I said, that is the first time we have ever heard it at our house. And I think 4 o'clock in the mornings. So it was Labor Day weekend, so they did it Sunday as well.
Yeah, you didn't have to buy a ticket.
Don't be smart. That's all I got.
Dang, I missed it.
God, that's-
Jack, how about you?
One of my employees said him and his son and daughter-in-law sat out in the yard and listened to it, and they was 4 miles away. So it must have been quite an event. It's been pretty quiet. I haven't had any phone calls, complaints or anything, and I don't know if it's the calm before the storm or if everybody's just happy, you think?
No lake. No lakes.
Now, I live in the part of the county that, well, this morning I was getting ready to come. We haven't got internet now to go on with no phone service. So it's pretty quiet. Maybe that's why I'm not complaining.
Could be.
Yeah.
Sandy, you get me a phone and you're on that committee.
I talked to my daughter about it. Because she works at SpaceX. So,
Still can't get SpaceX.
yeah, there are some blank spots.
Yeah.
So she's gonna look in to see if she can find out why. I think you're cursed.
I do too.
So, you know.
Thank you for.
He's a rebel. I think the federal government's got that blocked
Has a
around him.
force field over it, but she's gonna look into it just to see if she can find anything out. She doesn't work in that department, but She can listen.
Well, yesterday, my phone, Verizon phone went just no service for about 5 hours. And finally it come on with one bar. The AT&T phone, we still got 1 or 2 bars on that. So, but we got a tower 2 miles away.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand why it's getting worse and not better.
You're not over some gigantic mineral layer in there that's
No,
blocking?
well, no matter who you talk to, if they have Verizon or AT&T, their service has gotten worse. You know, parts of this county now, you can't make a call on anything. And AT&T aren't putting the landlines back in, so what do? I can go to my Amish neighbor, he's got a phone. I don't know how they do it, but they do.
Is it a track phone?
It's one of them, I don't know, it plugs into a box of some kind. I guess you can get them at Radio Shack or something,
Oh, maybe you want to try that.
but they're landlines. You can't carry them with you.
Oh, God. Okay. Does your cell phone work so when you get away from your home into another township or go to the cities?
Well, I get south of Isabella County, it works all the way to South Carolina and works good, so
Okay.
it's just up here. We're the third world country now, you know that,
Yeah, I believe that.
but you can listen to music.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you tried going to a Dollar General? Because when I was taking my classes online for,
5 minutes is up.
huh?
Your 5 minutes. is up.
For commissioner training for this term. You know, I have Verizon too, and I'm out in the woods, and so sometimes it's very, very bad too. But if you go to a Dollar General, you can get like 5 bars. So I was always driving around to the different Dollar Generals for my class. And I do that on the holiday weekends when a lot of people are coming up and they suck up the broadband. So try the Dollar General.
Only you.
Survival, you know.
All right, I don't,
State of County.
state of the county budget,
As of Monday, September 19th, we spent $12,154,967.25 out of the general fund. We're still averaging $1,056,000 out of the general fund per month on expenditures. We have another week and then, you know, maybe some utility bills or whatever comes in after, but I'm anticipating, I'm not sure, but I'm anticipating about 600,000 more in expenditures. Keep my fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll make Jenny happy. And then, but that's it. That's where we're at right now.
okay. Any public comment?
Nope, I don't.
You bet.
Should I come up here?
Yes,
I have a letter for each of you that I wrote, and then I'd like to walk through a few points. Is it okay if I pass this out?
you betcha.
This has to do with the lake assessment. And it's detailed in the letter, but there's a couple points that I wanted to go over. Did I give you 2 there? I did. Yeah.
I have
You have one, and you 2 have one. And who is the lady here? Are you with the press?
No, she's.
I'm with the administration office.
Then you already have one too. Okay, thank you.
Can I get one, Dennis, for my packet?
That, I knew that there was. Okay, first off, I'll try and keep this under your 3 minutes or whatever it is. There has been no petition nor referendum by the property owners on Lake George to change the special assessment district boundaries. It was just done by the Drain Commissioner, not by the court, not by the attorney, by the Drain Commissioner. I feel that that's subject to a challenge and that could get costly. And by the way, yes, I am the township supervisor in Lincoln. Yes, we do have 3 lakes involved, but the statute does not allow the township to be involved in this. My involvement can only be as a property owner on Lake George, which is what I am. Okay, this special assessment district is 46 years old on Lake George. Originally started establishing it in 1974, and then it was established by court order in 1976. typically a special assessment district is reviewed and renewed after 30 years. So I question whether or not we could even be doing this. The hearing that was held on August the 12th after the court date, the purpose of that, and Kyle kind of misrepresented what was done there. It was just for the judge to look at the numbers and say, okay. He didn't look at any boundaries. He didn't look at any special assessment districts. He didn't look at any assessments. All he did was say, okay, these are the new elevation levels and this is what we want. So a little bit of a misrepresentation there. Then in August, they went into the public hearing that talked about boundaries, the amounts, that sort of thing. And as each lake came into those hearings, everybody was kind of shocked, you know. We had been kind of led to believe that it was going to be about $10,000 a lake. Well, imagine our surprise when it got to be $32,800 for Lake George to basically change a number on a page. And that's about all. And by the way, Carl said cement structure, boards, this and that and the other thing. It's 2 channel irons, 4 feet apart with 3 2x6s in it. And there's a little bit of concrete in the base of each channel iron. And I was just out there Friday, and by the way, everybody, including Carl, has to have permission from TransCanada. I actually go on the property. I did, I always do, because that's under the protection of Homeland Security. Okay, he doesn't, but he needs to. There's a liability issue there. Okay, it was announced that the firm, Fahey Schultz, that was doing the work, would be in attendance at the hearings, and they were. But they had one attorney, Stacy, planted in the back of the room, and every single person that stood up to make a comment or ask a question was interrupted by her. All right, literally cut off and interrupted. Dale was there. And to me, that's a violation of the Open Meetings Act because they are, in fact, your subcontractor. That should never have been allowed to happen. I was really hoping she was going to be here today. The rest of the stuff is, you know, there for you to read and absorb if you want. But my suggestion is the term infrastructure was mentioned a whole lot of times today when you were discussing this and talking about it. And the ARPA funding is for the improvement, maintenance, and creation of new, if possible, infrastructure. I would think that some of those ARPA funds could go to alleviate this bill for some of those people. Like Dale said, some of those people are being charged $275 on Bertha Lake. A lot of those people are retirees on a fixed income. They moved up here from a much larger house in Southeast Michigan when they were living there and working there. So I'll wrap it up with that and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dennis. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
My name is Dave Pahota. First, I'd like to apologize for being late. I thought the meeting started at 9:30 instead of 9.
You're fine.
I'm with a nonprofit that's Smoky Joe, or Big Iron Smoky Joe's Hospice nonprofit. Our goal is to build or buy a house in Clare County to have it be like a hospice house, but it'd be a guest house. Lori's been gracious enough to try to help us find a grant. I'll pass these out. We work with Tony and Trish House, if anybody's heard of that over in Auburn. This pretty well explains what they do, and there's no sense reinventing the wheel. If they know what they're doing, we're just gonna follow them. And it's a place for people that are terminally ill to come and spend their last days. We'll have it staffed 24 hours a day with.
Nice to meet you in person.
Yes. With a kitchen, and every room will have its own bathroom and room for family to stay with them. The reason I'm here is you presently own a building in Clare that we are interested in. However, the price I think is like $250,000. We have between 170 and 180,000 in the bank, so we're a little short. And I'm here to see if you guys can come up with any weigh it all to help us purchase this building. It's the one by the VFW, 6,000 square feet. Would work great for it. Lori's been gracious enough to try to find grants for us, but like everybody says, a grant to buy a building is, you can't find them. If, once you own a building, you can get grants to do improvements to it. And whatever you can come up, ideally for us, you could give us a building. I don't know if that would work, but if not, maybe lower the price or come up with a rent to own, where we just make the payments to you. Being a nonprofit, we don't have a steady income, so we can't get a mortgage. But anything you could do to help us get into this building we'd greatly appreciate it. It's
So it's a senior service building in Clare, and you know, the whole COVID changed the dynamics of the program. So
That's an old hairdressing building.
yes, so it's currently for sale. We owe $208,000 on the building, like 208,371, something like that. So we do have it listed with a realtor, and he's only taking a 2% commission for this building. We would have to pay off, senior services would have to pay off the loan. It's with USDA. It's a very low interest loan. So they wouldn't, senior services could not, the county could not take less than what's owed plus the commission for the realtor. Just couldn't do it. Possibly we could, I mean, I don't know, I'd have to talk to Jenny first before I, you know, even actually said anything, but bottom line is we'd have to pay off the loan first, so and currently, you know, senior services is paying on that loan. I mean, something, we could possibly work something out. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but it, you know, it could be just a problem to solve, but
Is there a way they could take like 170, put 170 down on it? And then,
well, senior services would have to pay off the loan. We could not transfer the title of the building. So you're not going to be able to get money to rehab the building or anything. The title cannot transfer until that loan is paid off. So
could we use ARPA money to pay off the difference and
No.
then have them make a,
no, you
Payment
can't use the
account.
ARPA money for debt.
okay.
But, you know, possibly maybe senior services will have, you know, money to pay in their fund balance to pay off the loan. Like I said, I really need to brainstorm this first to pay off the loan, and then they pay what they have and then do, you know, a payment structure after that. But senior service can't be in we can't be in the business of providing you know, senior services can't, but they would have to pay off their loan first. So we'll talk. I need to do a little more research on this, and I really don't want to say something that may not happen. So let me do some research on it. Let me talk to our treasurer. Let me talk to our funding, the person that is my contact with USDA. And we'll go from there. Does that sound all right? You call like after the 1st of October?
Pardon?
I can call you after the 1st of October.
Okay, that's
Okay.
Dave, can you spell your last name for me?
POHODA.
Thank you.
Don't you have money in that small business thing you got?
Do that.
Yeah. Possibly work around that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be a good use for that building, and
Yeah.
and the
County
senior
does
services
have-
wouldn't have it.
The county does have a small business revolving loan fund, and you can borrow up to $30,000 at a very low interest. You have to have a business plan. And that is a potential avenue as well.
Okay,
So, and I'll help you with that too.
very good.
In what building are we referring?
It's a senior services building that we purchased right before the pandemic hit
Not
in Clare.
Fellows?
No, down from.
No, it's next door to it.
Okay, all
There
right,
used to be a funeral home at one time.
Yeah.
It was a funeral home at one time.
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So we purchased the building and then COVID hit
Mhm.
and, we were having 60, 70 people at the congregate site here and in
Mhm.
Clare, but COVID hit. Now we don't, we're lucky to get 15.
Mhm.
They're just nervous. They'd rather have their food delivered to them or come to the building and pick it up and then take it out. So it just doesn't make any sense to put a lot of money into a building that's not going to be utilized. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, I would just check.
Needs a lot of work too. though.
so, yeah.
I'm just wondering if the beauty college was the same as the funeral home.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's the same.
All right.
And the price of the cost went through the roof. The
Mhm.
original estimates were
Lot cheaper.
a lot cheaper.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Oh,
I'm gonna actually put you down in my phone so I get a reminder on October 1st to call you.
Session now.
Any more public comment? So we need a,
Need a motion going. I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
To discuss.
Discuss spongy moth spray setbacks.
And it has to be roll call.
I need a second. Second. Roll call. Please, Lori.
Okay. Jeske,
Yes.
Bankin,
Yes.
Bristol,
yes.
Pitchford.
Yes.
Reinhardt. Haskell.
Yes. All right. Okay, all right, we're being recorded. Do we
All right.
You're gonna-
got a motion to go back into open session?
Made the motion?
I asked if we had one.
Oh, sorry.
I'll make the motion that we go back into open session.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any new business? If we wanna,
We're gonna make a motion on the,
Yeah. Then the gypsy moth.
yeah,
Do-
so we want to make a motion to make the buffer zone on the spongy moss spray 100 foot.
Yeah. So everybody,
Who wants to make that motion? Rick,
I'll
you
make
make,
the motion.
okay, Rick will second it.
I second it.
All right. I'll make the motion that we reduce the buffer zone on the gypsy moth program from 600 feet
Spongy moss.
or spongy moth.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. 600 feet down to 100 feet. Buffer.
Can you second that?
I second it.
Got a motion, got a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay,
All right.
any new business? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion we adjourn.
A motion second, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Long meeting.